for the cone, my light source, I'm going to go this direction again this time, and I'm going to have it be a little bit lower down, and I'm going to go ahead and plan that the background is lighter and that the surface is darker. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this corner, and I need a highlight on my cone, and the cone's highlight is going to always come, it's going to come from the corner. The values are going to come from the top of the cone, and they're going to radiate down the side of the cone at a diagonal. So I'm going to erase that line in there too for the highlight. And I'm also going to have a lighter value down here on the surface. So I'm erasing those areas where the highlights are going to be in. Where the shadows are, I'm going to put in my darker values there. So I've already decided that I am going to make my surface on this one a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of value on that line there so that I can get rid of that line that I drew for the background. And I'm going to put from the top to the bottom on the opposite side of where the light is coming from. I'm going to put in a shadow that radiates from the top of the cone and goes downwards. And notice that I'm making it a little bit like a triangle. I did the same thing with this highlight, except for I made it a little bit wider so that I can blend the values in. So for the cone, go from the tip top of the cone down to the bottom and go in like a triangle for that shadow. On the outside, back here, I'm going to go ahead and put this shadows in and let them be really pretty dark. And then I'm going to leave, though, some space for my cast shadow, which is going to be from here going outwards. But I am going to go ahead and put some shadows in there. I'm also going to put a little bit of a shadow in the top corner over here, but not very, very much, just a little bit, so that I can blend it in between the light, the middle, and the dark in the background. All right, so for the cone, very much so like the cylinder, the cone, you have to think about the cross contours of the form. I am going to put a middle value, just a little bitty value, on that edge to get rid of that line. And I'm going to take this, like I would a cross contour, and go a little bit in that curve into that highlight that I have. So think about those cross contours as you are drawing, and still think about those small triangles that you're trying to create. With the blending, you're going to blend from that top corner downwards. Where my highlight went away, I'll just erase that later. So I'm going to take this lighter value, these middle values, and I'll take it over to meet where I put that shadow in. Then I'll take the graphite from the shadow and push it using the cross contours into that middle value of my cone. And then on this side, I'm going to let this blend into a middle value on the other side too. So what I'm seeing is that I need to push this back a little bit more. So I'm going to erase that down a little bit and make that little shadow a little bit thinner. And then blend it back out. So it's that pushing and pulling that I'm having to do to get those values in. Now, to make sure that my form is looking the way that I really want it to look, now I need to do the background. I'm going to start with my cast shadow first. The cast shadow on a cone looks kind of triangulish, if that's a word. It's a word today. And I'm just going to go from the very bottom of the cone outwards and away from the light source. I'm going to leave a little bit of a slice of a highlight next to the cone, and then from the cone back toward where there'd be light again. This should be like a 5, 6, 7 dark value. And then go outwards, darker, and then let it get lighter. And then, of course, we'd blend that out, going from light and then into that darker value. So over here, where there'd be a little bit of value, I'm going to use some value that's already on my blending stick or on my blending stump and blend that into the light source so that it's smooth and it's a gradual change from light to dark. Same thing up here where I put a little bit of that shadow in. And push some of that value back. Back here in the back, I'm going to blend it, trying to keep that bit of a middle value between the shadow and the surface, and then getting rid of that horizon line. And if you notice a little bit of a change in value, that cone value is lighter than the background, so that you have that contrast and you don't have to rely on pencil lines. In this shadow, I'm going to try to push it to about 10, maybe even a 12 in darkness, so that it's really a cast shadow back there. In the background up here, remember this is going to be lighter than the surface. I'm going to blend this value that I have put down. Make sure my surface is clean. And blend from this lighter value into where I put this darker value down. So there's some interest in the background. So remember that the main focus here is getting rid of these pencil lines and making sure that our drawing isn't relying on pencil lines to show the difference in shapes. So where I see a little bit of a pencil line here, I'm erasing slightly to the outside to get rid of that pencil line. And then over here, what I did is I put down a little bit more value. So where I put down more value, I'm going to blend that out. And over here where I erased, I'm also going to blend that out. So it's a little bit more natural. And there's my color.